Welcome to today's class. Today's lesson is on FFA Activities. When we're looking at FFA Activities and record them in your book, you're looking at a variety of different things. First of all, the degree dates. What kind of degree do you have and when you got them? Second of all, we're looking at parliamentary procedure skills you've gained over time and which particular motions do you have in your arsenal. Number three, what type of speeches or group leadership have you displayed over time? And then how many committees have you served on? Are you been an officer, a committee chair? What have you really done from a leadership perspective? And then, of course, the activities in the chapter as well as above the chapter. And then we're taking a look at non-FFA activities as well as community service. So those are the things we're going to be learning about and where to put them in your record book here in just a moment. Let's first of all start in Section A. Section A is all about the degrees that you hold in FFA. Obviously, there is the green hand degree, the chapter degree, and the state degree. What you'll need to do is select which one you have earned in that calendar year and then put the date by it. For those of you freshmen, we typically will have our degree night in November, and that was for the freshman or the green hand degree recipients as well as the chapter degree recipients. We also tend to recognize the state degrees as well. Then when we get to parliamentary procedure skills, that's in Section B. I don't typically use Section B1. I'll use B2 because I will typically teach those lessons on parliamentary procedure in the second semester. And we'll do it as a group. So you'll learn how to do, for instance, how to make a motion, how to second, how to also debate it, and postpone, those kind of subsidiary motions basically. And so we can use them in our meetings in an effective way. So that will be done in B2 as I'm going to be doing here in just a moment. There I put green hand degree was on the 11/14, and now I'm going to put down for 3/15 is when we did it. You need to put down the date that you did it, whether it be first semester or second semester, whichever semester your teacher teaches it in. Now on C is our public speaking events. For instance, you've probably done quite a few of them, but you didn't even know. It isn't just about going to a sectional event or some kind of competition. You can do things locally in the Lions or Rotary clubs, as well as local things that you possibly do in your classroom. For instance, if you're teaching or presenting in your classes, it would be a formal speech, and is tended to be given to a group or a classroom. And in this case, it was FFA history. Many of you have done that exact thing where you presented to the class about FFA history and took about 3 to 5 minutes. Another thing that you've all done is you've all recited the creed. And as you know, I only take those students who have qualified at a local competition. So it's a formal speech, typically given to a group, usually in class, not always though. And it's the FFA creed. That's also about 5 minutes in length. So most of you have done each of these so far, and you should be writing them down in your book as I speak. Now, on Section D, again, I'm talking primarily, this video is primarily for freshmen and sophomores, and until you get your chapter degree, you really can't be any kind of officer. So this is usually blank. But some of you who are watching it because you're a sophomore and you've gotten your chapter degree, you may be eligible, obviously, to run for office. Now, on Section D, we're looking at any committees you may be on. It's not a coincidence that every teacher, at least in our department, is in charge of a committee so that you, all of the students, can claim to be on a committee because you will be doing some kind of work for it. For instance, in my class, it's recruiting. We're having recruiting day for the 8th graders on Thursday, and many of you are part of it because you're tour guides. So write in your book, as I'm writing right now, recruiting. You may not have been a chairman, but definitely it was at the chapter level, and you were a tour guide, or maybe you were an organizer, or whatever it may have been. Please write that down as an activity that you've done and you've held that particular position. Now, when we talk about chapter level activities, we're talking about things like meetings and activities that revolve around our own chapter. For instance, Obviously, in September, you were introduced to our FFA in the September meeting, and you are, of course, a member or participant of that. Another example of that would be the opening and closing local competition that we had. Didn't have to be the big one at Willie Community College. We did a local one to see which teams would actually qualify to go on to the next level. So we have opening and closing local competition. You were a participant. All of you participated in that, and you should write that down. Same with the meetings. And then barbecues. Many of you have attended the 4 or 5 barbecues we've already had this year. Write it down so that you can get credit for it. And this section will help you as far as convincing me that you actually did the work. So please make sure that you write that down, because that's the first thing I'm going to ask when you say, hey, I didn't get my 10% on my grade. Well, here is the proof. And then movie night, we had a movie night that basically lasted from 5:30 to, I believe it was 7:30 in November, and you were a participant for that. And then we played those crazy games, and we had a terrific time playing all kinds of things that had to do with Minute to Win It. That was Minute to Win It night, and you were a participant in that, and that happened in December. And then we're going to move on to all of those activities, activities that happen above the local level. We're talking about sectional, regional, and state, and possibly even national for those of you who've gone to some of the conferences and those kind of things. For freshmen and sophomores, those of you who went to the local competition and qualified went to Woodland Community College Field Day and participated in a sectional event. All the schools in Yolo County were involved in that, and you were a team member, and that happened in October. Also in October, many of you freshmen went to the Green Hand Conference. It was in Colusa. That's a sectional as well as a state event. Now, I didn't mark it off here in the presentation, but you can mark off, for instance, for us as a state level activity. And you were a participant. And then also in October, we had the sectional corn maze. And that's when, all of our county schools got together and met up at the Dixon Corn Maze and got lost together. And lastly, the Sectional Ice Skating event happened in December. We had 180 people from the yellow section having a great time slipping and sliding on the ice. Took lots of pictures and ate lots of food. And that happened in December. There were other things on there that you can add, but those are just some basic ones. I just wanted to give you kind of an idea. But everybody in the class should have one of these. Anyway, some of you did them all and then some. And then the community service. As you know, if you're going to get your state degree, you need at least 25 hours of community service, but also to graduate from high school, you need 40. So this is a great way to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So, for instance, one of the things that we did is Thanksgiving for families. The Thanksgiving for families, you were considered a participant if you collected items, donated items, or helped us distribute those items. Depending on what you did, it could get up to 2 hours. It was a school event, and it happened obviously in November. But right that next month after, we had the Christmas for Families, where we sponsored 8 families. Not only did we get sister and brother and baby, mom and dad, all gifts, we also were able to give them all a tree as well. Terrific opportunity this year. If you did all of those, you got 8 hours. If you, for instance, wrapped gifts or you donated, put the hours according to your involvement to that. And then also another school event that cost was 12 hours. And that was throughout the football season. If you helped in the concession stand, serve and wait on people and make meals, that was 12 total hours, and that's throughout the football season. And then if you did something outside of school, like 4-H, they did gift wrapping at the mall. That's a out of school or a non-FFA activity. You need at least 2 of those, and that was anywhere from 2 to 8 hours. Sometimes it's at the county fair, sometimes at the mall, but you know where it was. And then the last one I want to share with you is a lot of church activities. Like if you're in a church youth group, let's say you washed a car to collect money to go on a missions trip, to Mexico over the spring break. That is definitely accounts, and so is the mission trip. And so keep track of those hours and put them in your book as well. So there's a really quick rundown on how to classify and how to put in all of those things that you do in FFA. It really does count for your grade, as well as for the school. I hope this has helped, and I'll see you real soon. Thanks.